afternoon and welcome to the Service Learning Panel. My name is Stephanie Hedeman. I direct the Center for Civic Engagement here at Hathaway Brown, and I have the honor of moderating today's panel. We're going to start with a quote from Theodore Roosevelt. This country will not be a good place for any of us to live in unless we make it a good place for all of us to live in. And I think that really speaks to the importance and necessity of public purpose work. Our three panelists today challenge their students and colleagues to consider the meaning behind this quote as they engage with the world beyond the walls of their school. In so doing, they learn and grow while also addressing crucial community needs. Each panelist brings expertise and a commitment to service learning and community engagement while also working in three distinctive educational settings: a pre-K through 12 co-educational school, a Catholic boys high school, and a co-educational boarding school. It's my pleasure to introduce our panelists. Nan Peterson has been on the faculty at the Blake School in Minneapolis for 35 years. She leads service learning at the pre-K through 12th grade levels. The Blake School's in-depth programming engages students in service through curricular service learning and community involvement projects. And in addition, as a Shin-Yo-En fellow, Nan develops individual student leadership and reflective skills and introduces, implements, and/or institutionalizes the philosophy of peace building through service. Mike McLaughlin has taught and coached for 25 years at St. Ignatius School in Cleveland. He serves as a sophomore service director and is chair of the theology department. Service is embedded in the daily life of St. Ignatius. The school has a longstanding commitment to Ohio City, its neighborhood, in Cleveland, and it greatly values the numerous community partners it has cultivated. And those of you who are on the tour yesterday, we drove by the school and pointed it out when we were coming back from Urban Community School. And our third panelist, Monique Cueto-Potts, has served as the director of the Office of Community Engagement at Phillips Academy for the past 3 years. Her experience as a tutor in high school and college, as well as her years as a public school teacher in New York City and Lynn, Massachusetts, have made issues of educational equity and social justice central to her professional life. Monique works with students who are figuring out the role that community engagement and activism will play throughout the rest of their lives, and she collaborates with and learns from incredible community partners and colleagues every day. Additionally, she currently co-teaches a community-based learning class in the English department that I personally really want to take, called Writing to Change the World, and this incorporates creative writing, educational theory, and writing poetry with second graders. So please join me in welcoming our panelists. We'll begin with a Q&A session in about 45 minutes and open the floor to questions. I've asked each panelist to start with program introductions, including the mission of their programs, how it connects to the values, larger values of the school, and some of the key programming components. We'll start with.
Yeah, sure. And maybe you could pass a few of these out. Thanks. I am Nan Peterson. I direct service learning at the Blake School in Minneapolis. My preferred pronouns are she, her, hers. Blake is an independent day school in Minneapolis, 1,850 students, known for progressive academics, arts, athletics, and service. I work in the Office of Equity and Community Engagement. That includes service, it includes international studies, GLBTQ initiatives, Learning Works, which is somewhat parallel to the Aspire program here at HB, and it includes 4 upper school deans. It's very nice to be together in the Office of Equity and Community Engagement. We can share a lot, we can be critical friends with one another. We had been separate until 6 years ago when we felt as if we were silos, and it is so much nicer being one big barn together. We meet together for an hour and a half every other week, and it lifts us all up and gives us bigger perspectives on our own programs. There's a service team at Blake. I'm fortunate enough to be pre-K-12 chair. That means I deal with 100% of the students, if not every day, certainly every week. And I'm a full-time service leader. There's a quarter-time upper school service leader. Middle school has 3 small part-time leaders, and lower school has 2. So it's quite a lovely, large team to help service be part of the culture. The service learning mission statement that I think Stephanie passed out to some of you was written by our upper school students, and I'll read it to you, thinking that this is done through the lens of upper school students. Through service learning at the Blake School, students gain a better understanding of themselves, the world in which they live, and the opportunity and responsibility they have to improve both. Service learning opportunities at Blake often grow out of student interests and remain strongly tethered both to the curriculum and to many communities. Reflection deepens the understanding students gain through these experiences. As a result of their engagement in service learning while at Blake, students develop lifelong habits of heart and mind and action that lead to lives as responsible world citizens. Fostering student development in this area is central to the mission of the school. Students last week, when I told them I was coming here, said, oh, here are a few other things we want them to know. Here's what we think they should know. Service helps us think beyond ourselves and helps us to expand that circle of care and concern. It helps us develop empathy and compassion. It's where we learn new skills. It's where we can appreciate differences and look at multiple perspectives. It helps us build community within and beyond the Blake School. The mission statement for the school talks about the importance of community service and lives as responsible world citizens. Respect, integrity, courage, love of learning, and commitment to pluralism are the values and part of the mission statement of Blake. And I think service covers almost all of those, if not every day, certainly every week. Most of the service done at Blake is securely tied to curriculum, and most of the service is led by students, which makes me trust, which I'm not very good at. I like to control, I like to say, here's what we're going to do, and I find then that I'm doing the learning and the students are not. So we come up with an idea, either as teacher or often a student, something tied usually to curriculum, and I let the kids go. And it always turns out better than I think it will, and certainly much better than I would have organized something. And if there are mistakes made, which there always are, whether it's student mistakes or my mistakes, we all learn together. Some examples of service action that perhaps will put the idea of mission in action. And I decided to talk just briefly about some lower school service actions because Stephanie said, ooh, maybe not too many people do lower school. I believe lower school is a wonderful place to have service. Thank you. And I can't keep up with the lower school children. Pre-K, I went to Africa. I go almost every summer, bring often students, sometimes adults. I came back this year with some pictures of an orphanage in Naivasha, Kenya, which is north past the Rift Valley, past Nairobi. And this is an orphanage for girls. And I wanted to talk about it because HB is for girls. Girls are the throwaway commodity in Kenya. Many are homeless, many are without parents, especially because of AIDS. So at this Light of Hope is the name of this children's center. They don't have much. And I brought back pictures of the cow that they had, one cow for about 80 children. And the pre-K kids who had just gone to a Minnesota farm said, my gosh, that's the only cow they have, it looks really sick. I said, I think you're right. He said, we've got to do something about it. I said, great, what are you going to do? Well, we've just been at a Minnesota farm, and we picked a lot of the corn stalks, and we are learning in art how to make paper. We are going to make paper, sell that paper, and buy and have enough money for a cow. Well, they made enough money to buy 2 cows and food for the cows for 4 years. I took the money to Kenya, and the girls there were so excited, they named the first cow Blake, and they named the second cow Nan. We have a lot of apple trees on our playground, and the kindergartners who have been studying food said, well, we've got enough food in our dining room, let's pick all the apples and bring them to the food shelf. And another child said, food shelf? We live in Wayzata, which is a really affluent part of the Minneapolis Twin City area. And they were surprised to hear that there were people in our local community near the school that had needs. And we talked about what are needs, who has needs, how do we help these people, who's hungry, why are they hungry? And the kids picked all the apples, got on a bus, and took the apples to the food shelf, which was just about 1.5 miles from our school. First graders have built garden boxes and have produced last year over a ton of vegetable produce that they brought to food shelves during the summer with their families. Second graders this year seem to be especially concerned with animals, especially puppies, and they've been going once a month to the animal humane to walk the dogs. Third grade, we have a large Somali population in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, largest in our country. And so the third graders who are very interested in reading and writing go once every 2 weeks to a school that is just for the Somali immigrants. And the Blake children help them with their English language speaking, writing, and reading, and then they teach us games that they had played in Somalia, so it's an exchange. Fourth graders are really interested in water conservation. They study that, make big posters, and then go around to different care facilities for elders and to libraries and make talks and talk to people about the importance of water conservation. Fifth grade this year has been really involved with UNICEF and helped the whole school collect those orange trick-or-treat boxes full of coins. They count the money, they bring the money to the bank and write letters to UNICEF to say how they hope this money will make a difference. So respect, courage, love of learning, and pluralism come through, I think, in all of these lower school activities.
Thank you very much. Back it up.
Good afternoon. So my name is Mike McLaughlin, and I teach at St. Ignatius High School, which is here in Cleveland, Ohio. I don't have a cow named after me, so got some work to do. But St. Ignatius is an all-boys high school in the city of Cleveland here, and it's a school of about 1,400 boys, and it's a Jesuit-run school, and it's been in Cleveland since 1886, and so it's been around a while, and there's a lot of tradition and history of it being in the city of Cleveland, and it's unique in that it's a college preparatory school that's in the city, and so we're lucky. And for years we've thought, do we go out to a suburb where we can buy 300 acres and make a mega campus and really do some special things, or do we stay in the city? And so it's a very mission-driven school, and so the priest 30 years ago said, part of the student's education is that they're in the city and that they experience life in the city, and most of the world is a city, and so the students need to be in the city. And so it's a Jesuit-run school, and it was 1972 that one of the Jesuits at the time decided to create, before anybody even talked about service learning, he created a program, and he said, brought all the teachers together, and he said, how about if we have our students leave school one day a week for about a 3-hour block of time, and we're in this neighborhood, we're in a community with all these wonderful social service agencies, how about if we plug our students into these agencies? And so all the teachers said, what are you, crazy? My class is too important, he can't miss my class. And so there was a lot of kickback and fighting, but it stuck, and so the administration got behind it, and since 1972 now we've had this service learning program. And so it's during the sophomore year that these students involve themselves in this program. And so as we travel around the school and go to Jesuit conferences like this one, all the schools are talking about how do you require your students to do service hours? How many do they have to take as a freshman and sophomore and junior teacher? And our answer is we don't require any service. They have to do service just during the sophomore year. And they do it for 1 semester. And then beyond that, we hope that their experience of their sophomore year was so profound that they want to continue. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But the way the program runs is that, so a student is assigned for sophomore service for 1 semester. And 1 day a week for a 4-period or a 3-hour block of time, he will leave school. And so it could be in the morning the morning time is 8 to 11, and then the afternoon time is roughly 11:30 to 2:30. And so maybe Monday is a student's particular day, and so I'll have a class section of 25 kids. That Monday morning is their day, and they'll go off to service. And then on, say, Wednesday, I'll have them in class for a 1-period reflection class, where we'll talk about their experience and help them process the things that they saw and did and so forth. So it's neat. And at the end of a student's 4 years, we sit down with them and we have these senior exit interviews, and we talk about what were the things that you enjoyed most, what were the shaping moments that you experienced, and hands down, it's unanimous, the kids will talk about their sophomore service and the things that happened during their semester of service. And so we're lucky because we're in the city, and so we partner with about 20 different agencies, and they're amazing agencies. And so a good number of the agencies are schools, because there's a lot of schools around the area. But we also, there's a cancer home nearby that our students go to. And so it's profound for a 15, 16-year-old kid to go on a Monday to interact and experience the clients there, and then show up the next Monday and that person's no longer there. And so to have a relationship and then to have that change. is a core part of the experience, and I'll come back to that. But so we visit cancer homes, we visit, there is, behind the West Side Market, there's an urban farm that's really incredible. So our students work with the refugees on this urban farm, which is a tremendous experience. We have our students also participate, there's a migration and refugee service program down around West 80th Street. Cleveland is one of the centers that's receiving a lot of the refugees from around the world, and so we help prepare apartments for the refugees, and so our boys are big and strong, and so we have them go lift and then get to know the refugees. And so yesterday, I think they went to a local basketball, like a court, and played basketball with the Somalis actually, so it's pretty neat. So we also have connections with the hospitals nearby, and so they go and participate as volunteers at the hospitals. So schools are a large majority of them, but there are unique schools. There are the normal public schools, there are some private schools, but there are a couple schools. There's one, it's called the Bridge Avenue School, and it's basically a middle school age, but there are 15 kids in the whole school. And these are all kids that basically slipped through the cracks of the Cleveland public systems, and it was discovered at a certain point that they couldn't read. So like 4th, 5th grade, they weren't able to read, and so they've got a unique program to help kids learn how to read within a year, and so our students are there with them, and so it's a very neat experience there. So there's about 20 different agencies, and there's a real variety of agencies, which is really terrific. So the mission of all of our service at St. Ignatius, it's a private school, it's a Catholic school, and so a lot of what we do is faith-based driven, and so the mission is really to get to know themselves, but also to get to know God, and to come to some sort of relationship with Christ and with the people around them. And so at the core of everything that we do in all of our service programs, it is to develop relationships. And so it's to develop relationships with God, but also to develop relationships with the people that they're interacting with. And so there's a beauty to having a semester of service as opposed to just going once for an hour and never seeing the people again. If they go every Thursday afternoon for 15 weeks for a semester, there are relationships that are allowed to be created, and so that's where the beauty comes in. So, but our mission, to know and to serve Christ, to get to know the world, to discover our students' role as servants in the world, to learn how to serve. I think a lot of times we talk to kids and we tell them, you're going to go do service, and I think a lot of young kids look at you like, I don't know what that means. Like, how do I serve people? And so we spend time helping the students understand what they can do to help people. So our mission is also to help our students talk to people, to look at people, to make connections with people, so that there are a lot of people in the world that are not connected with, and to have our students connect with those folks. Our mission is to help our students to find Christ in the people that they're working with. It's to help our students develop social skills, to help our students discover talents that they've been blessed with that they can take out into the world. Our mission is to help our students to grow in their desire to then serve for the rest of their lives. And ultimately, our mission is to help our students to grow in their desire to love people. And that's at the core. So we're lucky because we're in the city, and so we have two unique things. And so if you need me to be quiet. So we have this sophomore service program that we really hope that they have a profoundly good experience. And then once they finish with that, because we're in the city, we have a home that's on our campus, that's kind of right on the perimeter of the campus between the school and the neighborhood, and it's called the Arupe Neighborhood Partnership Program. And so it's a house so that people from the neighborhood can come, because sometimes maybe the campus looks like a fortress or something that's intimidating for them, and so it's an open house that people can come into. And so through that house, we run about 20 different after-school programs every day of the week. And these are, our students are not required to do any service beyond their sophomore year, but currently of our 1,400 students, we have 700 students voluntarily doing some sort of service. So we have a Big Brother program where our students meet with their little brother every week for 2 years. They enter as juniors. We have an after-school sports program where about 30 kids come every Monday and Tuesday and do sports with our students. We have a chamber ensemble program where we've got a beautiful Breen Center for the Performing Arts, and we have kids from the neighborhood that are interested in music come and interact with our students that are talented in music. We have a homework club 2 days a week. We have a Lego robotics club where kids can learn how to build robots out of Legos. And blow stuff up, I think. We have a remix program where kids get to do technical things and make music. We have a movers program where our students help people move things around their homes if they can't do it themselves. We have a snowman for others. Our motto at the school is to be a man for others. And so it's kind of evolved to being not just a man for others, but a man with others. And so whenever it snows, we go out and shovel people's snow. We have a lunchtime where our students can, instead of eating in our cafeteria, they can go across the street to the Westside Catholic Center and sit with some folks from the street and have lunch. We have a morning prayer program on Tuesdays where students can go and we collect a list of people who need to be prayed for. And our students pray for all the sick in our community and their families, so it's pretty neat. We just started a new ministry for the incarcerated, for folks who are in prisons, and so have our students go in and interact with folks in prisons. We have 3 programs that we're most proud of. We're proud of them all. But, the first is our LOBRA program. And on Sunday nights, we take a few vans of students and of teachers, and we head out into the poor areas of downtown. And so a lot of homeless people don't want you to know where their camp is. They're afraid that people are going to mess with them. And so, but there are hundreds of homeless people that sleep on a night outside at night in Cleveland every night. There's a big homeless shelter called 2100 Lakeside where there's like 600 people that sleep each night, but it's like the Wild West, and the homeless people would rather sleep outside and freeze than be in this shelter. And so for 13 years, every Sunday night, we've had our students and teachers go out to interact with folks on the streets. And they invite us down into their little abandoned places, their camps where they live, and we sit with them and we take food and we take clothing and we take a little book, and each time we sit down with them, we journal. What is it that you need? What can we bring for you the next week when we come to see you? So we take food, and mostly we take conversation and friendship, and so it's a pretty neat experience. We also have a program where we visit the handicapped. There are L'Arche homes in Cleveland, and L'Arche is a model homes, the group homes for handicapped, and so we have our students go and prepare meals and interact with the folks at the handicapped homes. And then we have another program, it's called the St. Joseph of Arimathea program, and it's a pallbearer ministry. And so we called a funeral home a couple of years, like 7 years ago, and said, look, we have 1,400 boys that can carry stuff. If you need help ever, if people, you don't have pallbearers, to let us know. So that first year, I think we did like 5 funerals in a semester. And since that point, we do 5 funerals a week. So this is the largest, and this is, I think, is pretty impressive. This is the largest extracurricular in our school. So there are over 400 students that serve as pallbearers. It's larger than any sport in our school, and so it's pretty impressive. And they go to the funeral home, they go to the mass, they go to the cemetery, and so it's a wonderful experience. And so all of our programs are based on the works of mercy. So to bury the dead, to give clothes, to feed the hungry, to give drink to the thirsty, and so that's how we've modeled everything. And at the core of it all is that we're trying to create opportunities for our students to enter into relationships with people. And so most people in the world are different than our students. And so we're fortunate that we're in the city and we're around folks that our students can have their eyes opened up to. So that's Sandy. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Maureen Potts, and I'm from Phillips Academy, which is in Andover, Massachusetts, about 30 miles north of Boston. We are a really large boarding school. We have a population of about 1,100 students. 900 of them live on campus with about 200 faculty members, and we have about 200 day students. So let's see if this works. I'm a visual person, so when I was trying to figure out how to maybe, there we go.
I think it just went to sleep, so yeah, just a second. Yeah.
It's coming. All right, it's coming.
Let me grab the lights.
Sure. There you go. So that's snowy Andover, which is not nearly as snowy as it was last year, when we had about snow up here as opposed to down here. Great. So in terms of the mission of our program, I realized on our website we had like 6 super long bullet points from the early 90s, and so I kind of condensed them into what I feel our mission is now. We have a healthy obsession with developing and maintaining mutually beneficial and positive relationships with every community partner that we have. Most of the community partners that we have, we've had relationships with for decades. They far predate me coming into the office. But as long as we have had those relationships, we've always made sure to keep in close, constant contact with our community partners, and I feel is really the foundation of our program. We have a variety of community partners, everything from the local animal shelter to the Boys and Girls Club, to after-school programs with nonprofit organizations in the town of Andover and in surrounding towns. So we try to take very good care of our community partners because they are the absolute foundation of our programming. We also want to provide our students with meaningful opportunities to build relationships with our community partners so that they can develop empathy and a sense of connection to those around them. A lot of our students say that the reason they participate in our programming is to get out of the Andover bubble. Andover bubble seems to be a popular term because it really does feel like a bubble. We live, eat, work, play, do everything on this really beautiful 500-acre campus. And they can't drive themselves anywhere. We have to take them everywhere. So these programs for a lot of students expand the campus beyond our grounds, and for many of our students, they also say that it is the closest connection they have to the communities that they left in order to come to boarding school. And so all of our programs are direct engagement programs, so we are always directly engaging with people or animals. And then finally, this has become a big one for me over the last few years, and realizing that we just have these students for a short period of time in their lives, very formative years, but short period of time, is to teach students how to thoughtfully, responsibly, and intentionally engage with and in communities once they leave our campus. And that, to me, has become a very urgent part of our programming. So over the summer, we changed the name of the office from the Office of Community Service to the Office of Community Engagement. One of our school's values is non-civi, which means not for self alone. And I was finding in a lot of conversations with our students that they were almost embarrassed to admit that they were getting something out of these partnerships and out of these programs, and they sheepishly were saying to me, I actually really like doing this, or I've really grown attached to this person that I've been working with for the last 4 years. Like, is this okay? I thought I wasn't supposed, I thought this wasn't for me. And so in an effort to both address that and also help students think about their time beyond Andover, we moved to engagement, which for me more accurately reflects the way that we hope students internalize the work that we're doing with our community partners, where it's mutually beneficial, everyone's learning from each other and coming in on equal ground, and shifting our language in everything we do and write and say from engagement with rather than service to, so it doesn't feel like an action that you're doing to someone else. And we've discussed this shift very intentionally at orientations that we have for all of our programs, which I'll talk about in a minute. And we come back to it and discuss it throughout the term and during specific reflection sessions that we have at the end of every term. And I've already started to hear a shift in the kids' language. They used to like calling it ComServe. It just kind of rolled off the tongue, I'm going to ComServe. And so now when they're about to say it, they now engage, like they're becoming more mindful. And it became a very easy entry point into what does engagement look like with not just at programs, but when you are interacting with people in your dorm or in your classes. Is your phone away? Are you looking at them? Are you in the moment? And so it has become a more active way for our students to think about the work that we're doing. In terms of programming, most of our work is actually extracurricular. It's not yet tied. We have a few community-based learning classes, but most of it is tied to the after-school hours in our daily schedule. We offer about 30 programs that take place on a weekly basis. Most of those programs are term-contained, so students can sign up at the start of every term. We have a few programs that, because of the population we're working with, we like for it to be year-long programming so that the relationships can stay over the year. Participation is intentionally voluntary. We don't have any required hours, no graduation requirement, and we have about 375 spots to fill, and they're filled every term, every year. If we had more people to drive our kids where they needed to be, we would have even more students involved, but we are limited in what we can offer by the number of adults that we have available on any given afternoon to actually drive them to where they need to be present. So we have 3 terms in our academic calendar. After sign-ups at the start of every term, we have a mandatory orientation where students come and learn about the community organization that we're going to be working with, the work that we're going to be doing. Our student coordinators for programs talk with them about ideas that they have for the term and what they, what we're going to do, and get ideas from the volunteers about what they would like to do. We then have about 5 to 6 weeks of programming, and then we have a reflection session at the end of every term. And when I started in this role, there was no orientation or reflection, and the kids were like, it's never gonna work, no one's gonna wanna come, it's gonna be boring, it's gonna be terrible, don't even try it. And the great thing about high schools is that kids graduate, and the ones who are just coming have no idea that it's any different a few years ago. Thank God. And the orientation and the reflection have become really vital pieces of our programming that kids don't see as separate from the actual doing. So that's been a relief to me. We'll see if they come back for the reunions and ask how that went. So we offer 3 types of programming. Some of them are self-scheduling, where the students pick a block of time, usually about an 80-minute block of time that they have free consistently throughout the term, and they'll walk to the local daycare center, elementary school, or home for the elderly. And then we have some on-campus programs and off-campus programs that all take place in groups. On campus, we offer a program called ARC, where we have mostly adults with special needs from Andover and surrounding areas come to campus, and our kids grow super attached to their ARC buddies over their time at Andover, and most of those kids start out as freshmen and stay all 4 years with the same buddy. This program, interestingly, started out with the buddies being like 7 or 8 years old, and it's been around for 30 years, and a lot of those 7 and 8-year-olds are now grown men and women that have continued coming every Tuesday afternoon to our campus, and so that's been interesting. It's presented some challenges, but it's been really neat to see that grow. We also offer some after-school programming for a nonprofit in a nearby town. Our students, we teach them how to write lesson plans, and they basically run after-school programming in arts, science, computers for elementary age students. And then we have a ton of, almost everything happens off campus, from walking dogs and petting cats at the animal shelter to feeding, serving meals at nearby meal centers. I'll show a very quick video of some programs that we have going on at the Boys and Girls Club of Lawrence with coding, and there's a mentoring program, and then just helping out in the tutoring room. And then we have a program as well where our students work with adults who are studying to become citizens or are learning English. And so I have found, for me, the most interesting programs to see are the ones where our students are interacting with adults. It's very different than the sort of interactions that they're having with young children, and I have found that the most impacts, the programs that have impacted our students the most are actually the ones where they're working with adults. There seems to be a different sense of reality for some reason when they see adults who have been working 10 to 12 hours a day and then come into a local community center to study for their citizenship test for 2 hours after doing that, and suddenly their chemistry test doesn't seem nearly as stressful, and there's a certain dose of reality, I think, in working with adults that they don't see as much with kids. We also, my office is super tiny. It's me, a fellow who's usually a recent college grad that stays with me for 2 years, and then we have a part-time program assistant. And the 2.5 of us, in addition to running our programming, we also run this massive weekend of awareness and engagement. It's the only required community engagement project for all 1,100 of our students. Classes are canceled on a Friday, and the projects either take place on a Friday or a Saturday. It's mandatory for all students and teaching and administrative faculty members, and the school also allows staff members, so people who are working in some administrative offices, to participate without having to use personal time or vacation time. And as soon as that happened, we saw a huge uptick in the number of folks from offices that have no interaction with our office ever, participating even just in this weekend. We have about 60 projects with nearly 35 partners happening in a span of about 36 hours. And each grade focuses on a particular social issue, which is also addressed in our weekly programming. So 9th graders focus on working with organizations that address the needs of children and families. 10th graders on the environment and sustainability. 11th graders on health and hunger. And 12th on housing and homelessness. And we found that by connecting this one kind of random weekend to organizations and issues that we are dealing with on a weekly basis, we have found that students are more likely to kind of go back to the Boys and Girls Club if they went in 9th grade, to do a writing conference for their non-civi weekend project. When it comes time to sign up for projects later on, that are happening during the term, they say, oh, I remember going to the Boys and Girls Club during 9th grade, and so we've seen more students getting involved that way. So that's really what we do. I wanted to just show a super quick video that hopefully you can hear. These are, you'll see some of our student coordinators and volunteers, as well as little ones from the Boys and Girls Club of Lawrence, where we run a coding program with the help of a math and computer science teacher from our school, an arts and crafts sort of program, and then helping out in the homework room. So let's see how this goes. Now. So let me see, and if we can't get it, I don't know why it wouldn't.
You have to maybe pull it over. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes see there it is.
Oh, there it is, hello.
Yeah. I didn't know how to explain
Got it, awesome, thank you. It's so weird because it's not over on my screen,
Yeah,
but it's,
some of the projection things just
Funday.
aren't like one-to-one.
okay. So how do I, but I can't hit, oh, there we go, okay. This is like super not good for a personal. Okay. This is why I would never be a surgeon, because my eyes have to actually, all right, let's see. Anyone?
You just try the space bar before I started.
Let's try this, all right, left. This is super weird. All right, so anyway, this would have been a really fun way for you to see the programs in action, but maybe if we can figure it out at the end, we will. But this is the joy of having someone who is recently out of college, and like YouTube and Facebook is like totally something that they can do within 15 seconds. She like creates these videos, and then like 5 minutes later they're out into music, and has been a really great way to engage other kids and faculty members who are part of our Facebook page and see what's going on in our programs, even if they can't go themselves.
Thank you.
Wonderful work.
These introductions have been so rich that I wanted to turn it over to the audience for questions, and a number of questions for our panelists.
So I had a question, actually I guess it would apply to all of you, but I was thinking of it when we were speaking about St. Ignatius. How did you address any concerns that parents might have had about putting the students out in the community, especially in places like, a homeless shelter with just unknown people like out of the community, because like I teach in an all-girls school and parents are overly concerned about their children and addressing safety issues. So how did you deal with that to make it a program that would succeed?
Parents just sign a release form and it's good. No, you're right. Like the schools are safe. When we send kids to tutor at schools, we know that they're there's police there if need be. But yeah, there are certain, even when we go out on Sunday nights to visit the homeless, there's fear involved, and there are parents that don't let their kids go. And so, but all this, the service agencies that we go to for sophomore service, I know the supervisors at all those agencies, and I know what goes on there. And there was one agency where things got a little bit unsafe, and so we don't go there any longer. And so, but it's the world. Like, we can't protect, we have to do our best to protect our children.
No, I agree with you, I just didn't know how
Yeah,
you
and-
explain that to parents to get them on.
And they know when they come to St. Ignatius that this is part of the curriculum, this is going to happen. So, and in fact, that's why most people spend the money to go to St. Ignatius is for things like this, so. But, yeah, there are definitely the parents that are so afraid, and so I just have to talk them off the ledge at the beginning of every semester. And we drive them, so we're lucky that we have an alumni volunteer program where we have students after they graduate from high school can come back and graduate from college, and they can live on campus for a year and help out. And so, so they help out as drivers, and we walk them into the agencies, and we're there, and so we're pretty hands-on to what's happening. So.
Do any of your programs have student leaders involved in a strong way, helping to organize the effort? How does that work?
At Blake, almost all of the service activities are led by kids. They often dream up the idea, and they organize their classroom or their club, and they meet with the agency. Most of the work done at Blake is done by the students themselves.
And they bring efforts to you for approval, or and are they coordinated with each other? And kind of counsel? Or?
Yes, we have a community service board that's made up of a couple of teachers and many students. And the idea is that the students come to the board that are approved or suggested to make it a little more positive. But almost everything is student, if not completely led, almost, which makes it very scary.
And also authentic.
Same, our students run everything with an adult moderator, with the faculty member. And so every Thursday after school from 3 to 3:30, we have a weekly meeting, and all the programs that I spoke about, there's a couple students that are in charge of each program, and they'll stand up and give a 2-minute summary. This is what's happening this week, this is what we need. And then same thing with the pictures you talked about. We will post pictures of all the kids doing their activities all over the walls. And so we're fortunate in our communications department too. We have somebody that their sole job is to promote all the different service stuff that we're doing too. So it's created a culture where this is what people do. So.
And that period doesn't conflict with sports? Or?
It does, and we've tried to get, I'm the soccer coach, and we try to even get the football coach. You can't have practice, on Thursdays from 3, but it doesn't go too well. But the students are the drivers of it. So.
We handle all the logistics, and that became necessary after partners were not getting phone calls back from students. Emails were proliferating, and I remember being, we're just expanding, and they weren't. And I wasn't super comfortable with someone not knowing if we were coming one week to the next. So we kind of now handle all of the logistics in terms of who's driving where, communicating with the partners. The kids themselves drive the programs, though, based on what the community partner needs and wants. And so there's some students that are just emailing out to the volunteers, don't forget, meeting at the bus at 5:30 today, see you there, can't wait. And then we have other students that we are working with them on lesson plans and teaching them how to teach, essentially, and not have 45-minute lectures for third graders who are interested in art. But they don't know any different because no one's taught them any differently. So our community partners are much happier with us handling the logistics, and I found it. I was having agita, not knowing who was not going to show up or what was going to happen. So things have been a lot smoother, and the kids can concentrate on what they want to concentrate on, and we can concentrate and go to sleep at night knowing that things are in place. I take our promises to our community partners super seriously. And it was just one area of learning for students that I had to kind of pull back on a little bit because it was affecting them in a negative way.
Thank you.
How about way in the back?
Do any of you have programs that do any kind of service to the internal community to sort of work on stewardship of your own resources and your own community and taking care of that?
At Blink, we talk a lot about service begins at home. It means in your family or in your school community. And a lot of the middle school students are tutors after school for lower school. And a lot of upper school students are tutors for the middle school students. So we try to encourage the idea that service doesn't happen just in Africa. The idea that service is global and it's local, and local means sometimes in your own family or your own campus.
We have a peer tutoring program that's run outside of our office, and we have like an eco action group that's like super into sustainability on campus, and that's run through another office. Our high school kids are strangely fascinated with faculty children, and our faculty children are super fascinated with the big kids that they see at the dining hall, and so we've created a read aloud program at the library. We've also created something called Sunday Funday, where a teacher from the school or any adult in the community can run a 1-hour class on Sundays we do pre-K to kindergarten and then 1st through 5th grade, and then we have student volunteers, and they'll come and do yoga with the person who loves teaching yoga, or they'll do Lego robotics with this guy who loves doing Lego robotics. And so we have found that that's a really great way to engage kids who may not have the time or may not want to go somewhere else or may just want to spend time with little kids. Yeah, so that's been a really fun thing.
30 activities a week is astonishing. Who drives those kids? And but you're like multiplying yourself every day.
Yes.
So how do they get where they're going, and what are the logistics around that?
Yeah, so most of our programming happens on Wednesday afternoons because our sports schedule, our academic schedule, we end at 1, and then on Wednesdays, we end at 1, and then kids who are interscholastic athletes have their games and stuff, and then everyone else just basically has a free afternoon. So a lot of the programming happens on those days. We have some faculty members that volunteer their time, the little time that they have, and it's something that they really enjoy doing. We have just started to get faculty workload credit for participating in. That has been a super difficult thing to do, but we've gone from like 1 person getting credit to 4 people getting credit, and that buys me 1 person an afternoon, and so the school early on mandated that if we were going to run programming off campus or on campus, we had to have a faculty member there, and so I said, okay, then I need faculty members there, because we were just sending kids off on a bus by themselves and like hoping for the best. And so, in order to keep what we were doing, the school has helped us. We can't really get any bigger because we don't have any more adults, but they did at least provide us with enough adults to cover the programming that we do have. And then Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, it's people from our office.
How big is your staff?
2.5 people.
So you and your other staff members are always, after school, that's something that you do? You take kids out into?
That's all we do.
Oh, okay.
In the afternoons, yeah.
The human resource component, I think, is always an issue for
Yes.
schools as they start. And so I'm thinking to myself, do you come in later in the day, or do you just
No.
work longer?
We just work longer.
See, I think that's an issue for the
Yeah.
people who do this kind of work,
Yeah.
and coordinate it if they're not teaching. Because you're into the evening hours then,
And we live on campus as well, but we don't have to live in a dorm. And so there are some, they do take into consideration, if I'm getting home from a program at 7:30 at night, it's probably not best for me to be running a dorm until 11:30 that night. And so they make accommodations in that way, but in order to get the kids to where we need them to be, to have everyone safely there.
We're really close to the end, believe it or not. We needed 2 hours for this panel, but maybe before the bell, for those people in the audience who are in the early stages of developing a service learning or civic engagement program, what advice do you have?
So so it's intimidating to think, wow, they have 30 programs that they're supposed to do, you know, but it all starts with one program. And, you know, 15 years ago, we started with our Big Brother program, and it went really well, so a year later, we started something else, and then it's oftentimes the students who would come and say, we should visit people in prison, that, you know, they need to have somebody to talk to, and so then it will take 6 months, and we'll figure out how we're gonna do it, and so the key is to create a culture in your school, and so I think we're lucky because there's a positive peer pressure to do service at St. Ignatius, and it's become something that kids really enjoy doing and talking about, and so, and I think it partly happens when you get a couple of key people that are willing to put the time in and are charismatic and can rally up students, and all of a sudden more kids start coming, and then all of a sudden you've done it for a couple of years, and so but it takes time, and it takes the school support as well, but oftentimes falls on people's shoulders that have to stay, you know, till 6, 7 o'clock at night, and but that's, and then you find excited kids to stay with you, and you know, things start to snowball.
For me, it's being super intentional about the language that you're using with kids and faculty from the get-go. I feel like I'm undoing years of language about serving and helping those people and, you know, privilege. There's just a lot that I am finding that through vocabulary and education is really impacting the way the kids are viewing the work that we're doing. So all of these partnerships and programs were built way before I got there, and I came in with a very strong foundation that I'm really, really grateful for. And for me, it's just been fine-tuning that language piece that that I am hopeful will have kids leaving our campus and engaged in communities in a way that's respectful and thoughtful after they do it.
I would suggest there would be a leader, a coordinator, an advisor for your school with the budget and with a service or a community engagement mission statement. I would suggest an outside service leader coming to talk to your core group of teachers that might be interested, so you get a core group that will do good quality service, good quality engagement. I would suggest you read anything by Catherine Berger Kay, especially her Complete Guide to Service Learning. I'd suggest you read anything done by Jim and Pam Toole. Have a faculty and staff in service. There's the National Youth Leadership Conference in Minneapolis.
So loud.
In April. There's the Council on Spiritual and Ethical Education that has a conference in Baltimore in the last week of October, which is really terrific. I suggest you invite agencies to come in and talk with your faculty and students. I'd certainly invite parents in so that they're part of it, but you have to be careful that they don't get to be too much fun.
Okay, well,